Cliff and Seep's event. My name is Carla.
My name is Palmar, and we will be your student facilitators.
And our speaker today is Ankitha Rake.
Yes. This meeting will be recorded and posted on the Undoc website for future reference.
You can ask questions anonymously. We won't show up on the recording, and we will answer them live or through the webinar. So,
without further ado, our speaker.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Ankitha Rake. I'm the Assistant Dean for Student Support in the Office of Inclusion, Community, and Integrative Learning. And one of the communities that I support is the undocumented, DACAmented community. So I'm going to share my screen and walk through a PowerPoint that talks about resources. Okay. This is the agenda that I was talking about. So we'll just go on to the next slide. Thank you for letting me know. All right, so this is a picture of me, and you hopefully get to see a little box of me live. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about my role. So it's a new role at Stanford. It was created in the summer of 2020 in response to because Student Affairs saw that there was a gap in support structures for documented and DACAmented and undocumented students. I worked at Stanford for, this is my 9th year, I'll be finishing my 9th year, but I used to work in the Office of Student Engagement. I do, however, have a little bit of a background in diversity and inclusion work and have done that work in previous offices, but I really wanted to be in this position because supporting students, especially from marginalized backgrounds, is very important to me. I know that resources that I received when I was a student at another undergrad were very helpful, and the mentorship that I was able to have was also very helpful. So part of that are my reasons. I am what I consider to be an undocu ally. So what does that mean to me? I kind of boiled it down to a couple of things. Number one, listen. So I really want to be able to listen to you, to be able to hear what your specific needs might be. The next thing that I think that I probably like to do is support. So what can I do in a moment maybe, but then what can I also do in the long run? And then the third thing is connect. So I don't really hold the resources, but I think as I've been in this role for 8 or 9 months, I know what the resources are and can connect you with them. And then I think personally, the last thing that I'll share is my parents immigrated here, and I understand a little bit of that, again, from an ally perspective, but that immigrant experience has been very important to me and my background. And then the last thing that I'll also share, not about me, is just, I think by connecting with the DACA and undocumented student community, we want to share in some of the small wins. So I just want to acknowledge that DACA is back. I'm sure that's on the top of everyone's minds. And I hope that we can do a little bit of celebration. I know there still is work to be done, but I thought that was important to acknowledge. All right, so the way to connect with the university is very, very easy. We want you to email a generic email. It's called fordreamers@stanford.edu. And please do so from your Stanford email and include a description of what you want. And I'll talk through some case studies in a second. So basically, why it is that indirect is one, a couple of people have access to this. So there's a working group, and I'll talk through that in a second too. But it streamlines some of the work and it centralizes it so that it's not in one person's inbox and they're in a meeting or they're on vacation or something like that and people don't have access to it. So that's why there's a generic account. It also helps protect you all because, again, only select people have access to it. And then this way we can really individualize our support. So depending on status and depending on if you're undergrad or grad student in different programs that you're in, we'll be able to provide further assistance from there. The other way you can connect with the university is with the undocumented.stanford.edu website. That has it's bare bones. We're going to go through it also in a second. So it is bare bones, but it does have some important information on it. So that's also a really great way to connect. Okay. So case studies. So what types of questions do we get to this inbox? And I'm one of the people on the working group that has access to it. So a lot of questions we do get are for financial aid and funding. So how do I make sure that I understand payment what are financial aid options? What are funding options? Can I work? Can I be an RA? Those types of things. So I think those are very great questions to be able to ask. You can shoot an email for something like that. Sometimes we get questions about studying abroad or really like traveling abroad, or from the pandemic, there are people that are either stuck here or stuck in other countries. So trying to learn about that and give resources and connections with that. There is a legal assistance clinic that is set up on Stanford's campus to be able to provide some support. So sometimes it's very much a direct question for them. The way you get to that clinic is through the For Dreamers email. So you can ask questions about that. And then I think the other questions that we get are about, if there's a limited or finite amount of Stanford resources, are there other resources outside of Stanford that you can connect me to? And so we can try to connect you all with that. We can also connect to grad populations or undergrad student populations that can be peers that can help you or assist you or form community with you. I would say those aren't usually the typical questions we get. Usually people are already connected through SEEPs or through the graduate student population, but if not, then welcome, and we can connect you with those. So you can see my notes that it's very case to case, it's very individualized. And so that's why we're not going into more detail here, because that wouldn't be helpful. So what's really best, you'll feel like this is on repeat throughout this presentation, is to send that email, kind of outline what some initial thoughts would be. You don't have to write a lot. What we might even try to do is schedule some time one-on-one with you. It can be with anonymity. So if we do it over Zoom, it can be with the video off. We could do a phone call. So we can set up parameters so that you feel safe. But that usually is the best way to do it, to be able to get some of the answers that you might want. And then it's also different from, of course, grad school, and then different PhD versus master's, or some of the professional schools, so law school, med school, GSV, and then undergrad. So again, that's kind of why I'm trying to provide some crumbs of, here's some things that I've personally worked with in the past 9 months. But again, I think we can always provide better services when we can connect individually. All right, so DACA specific resources. So DACA is back, as I was talking about at the start. So we know there's a lot of questions about that. And if you do have those questions, the legal clinic is going to be the best resource. So I think this was clear from the beginning, but I wanted to reiterate, like, I don't have legal expertise or a compliance background. So I'm not going to be the person to help with that. We want to give you someone who has that type of expertise and background. But again, the way in is to email the For Dreamers account, and we'll set you up with them. And so you can get free and confidential legal consultation, and it can be about how to file for DACA for the first time or to refile if you need to refile. We will provide you with financial assistance with your DACA filing fee. So include that too. So that meaning we will cover the fee. Excuse me. Sometimes I know the slide says it's DACA specific resources. Sometimes we can give some of that legal assistance for non-DACA specific needs. So again, just say that in the email, in that initial email. If we have questions, we might say, let's do a follow-up one-on-one meeting or shoot you an email back. And then we'll take it from there and connect you with the legal clinic. Okay, I thought it would be really good to now hop out of this and go to the website. So let's see if I can figure out how to do that. I can. Okay, so it's undocumented.stanford.edu. And is it still sharing my screen? I hope that it is.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Okay, so here's what it looks like. Like I said, it's pretty bare bones. Excuse me, I'm gonna take a sip of water. But there's a little bit, there's some helpful information that I wanted to share. So first of all, you can see university statements. This is a lot of times people want to know what has the university said or done about different issues. So you can see statements that are issued. It is up to date. So we just issued one in mid-February. And you can, if you want, you can look through those. There is a little bit of information about prospective students and basically how the admissions process works. So that can be helpful to read or share. This talks through the legal clinic. And like we said, for Dreamers for a referral. And then there's a couple of other information. There is a few more links for other outside resources. I have two screens, by the way, so I'm just looking at the other screen. And then at the bottom, we did a Know Your Rights and resources webinar in the early fall. So if you want to watch that, you can do that. That is also pretty much up to date. Okay, so it's legal resources. There's a little bit of information about counseling and support, CAPS, or connecting with your academic advising director. And then there's career resources. Those are really the ones that I want to make sure that you all know about. We've added a little section about privacy in case you have concerns about DPS and understanding the non-discrimination policy, and a little bit about like the work that Stanford is continuing to do to advocate for DACA, the DREAM Act, those types of things. Okay, let's go back to this. Okay, is this gonna work? And my notes. All right, and hopefully it's not sharing the notes. Okay, so the working group. There's a working group that's been established. The working group has staff on it and students. And there's staff from the Dean of Students office. The Dean of Students chairs it. So Dr. Mona Hicks chairs it. There's staff from Career Services. There's staff from El Centro. There's staff from Bechtel International Center. There's staff from the Graduate Life office. And there are students. So there's an undergraduate student on it and a graduate student on it. If you want to learn more about the working group or want to give feedback to the working group, you can email the For Dreamers account and we'll get back to you from there. And so what is the working group, you might ask? So you can read the goal, but basically what we're doing in line with that idea that I talked about at the start, why this position was created, the university wants to improve our resources for DACA and undocumented students. And the working group is the means for that to happen. So what we're doing is benchmarking across like what are other institutions providing, and then doing strategic thinking and goal setting so that we can do some of those things. And what we hope to have in the future is things like training staff, building out resources, updating the website, those types of things, so that there is more information, more access, and we really make sure that the documented and undocumented students feel belonging and community at Stanford. That's the bottom line. All right, so Q&A time. I think there's a few questions that came in earlier. So someone says, I'm curious about what options I can give a professor or administrator about options for paying me when there's a job offer or research position on the table and they don't know how to pay me. So like I said, this is going to be on repeat. I think it's best to email the 4 Dreamers about that so that we can understand a little bit more of those specifics that I talked about earlier, so that we can then curate the information for you and make sure we're not just saying to do something that actually won't work for you. And then there's another question that says, what funding resources are available for undergrad and grad students? For undergrad and grad students. So again, it's very much going to depend on if you're an undergrad or grad, and then what types of programs you're in. So email 4 Dreamers, and we can get back to you. And then there's another question about if there's a mentoring program for undocumented students. And I'll have either Carla or Pamar answer that question for at least SEEPs.
Yeah, so currently there isn't one, but the closest thing we have to community is SEEPs. So yeah, if you're interested in that, it's the Stanford Immigration and Empowerment Project. So
there's like, it's on Insta, right? And
yes, yeah, it's on Instagram. You can find us. I think it's at SEEPs, so it should be easy to find.
And then for grad students, email the 4 Dreamers account, and we can connect you with a group that there's a chat group that we can connect you with. All right. Stop sharing and we will pause there. All right, those are all the questions that we have. Just wanted to thank everyone for attending or watching this online. Really appreciate it. And if there's one takeaway, it's to email 4 Dreamers with any questions that you might have. Thank you to Seeps and Flip for inviting me and putting this on, because I think it was a really wonderful idea. So appreciate it, Pamar and Carla.
Thank you so much, Ankita, and I hope this was helpful, yeah, to whoever's watching it.
Thank you everyone for attending.
What?